The pyramids in Egypt and the pyramids in Mexico are probably the most famous pyramids, but there are pyramids all over the world. And a pyramid is not a tetrahedron. A pyramid is a stellated or cut off octahedron. And when we are looking at the structure of space-time being made of those tetrahedrons and octahedrons, this is the geometry of the resonating cavities that's formed by a tetrahedral array. So this basic geometry is very much directly related to the geometry of the fabric of the vacuum. And man, we see pyramids of all different styles and shapes and sizes all over the planet, from Egypt and China and Iraq and Sudan to Mexico and Bosnia. And they're found, you know, literally spaced evenly around the world. I guess there's not a ton in Australia, but maybe there will be some discovered there someday. These pyramids are found in Sudan, really beautiful and different angle than the other ones. Here's a pyramid in Peru in the middle of the city. And here's a Chinese pyramid. This picture was taken by a pilot who had gotten lost in World War II and came back reporting seeing Chinese pyramids. It wasn't until much later that Western explorers went into the interior of China and discovered these pyramids. The Chinese government told farmers to farm on there to help disguise the pyramids, and they even planted these prickly bushes on the pyramids themselves so that it would be much more difficult to excavate. So I think there's some level of resistance to even letting Western archaeologists explore these sites. But now, thanks to modern technology and people like tourists and drones and all this, we're starting to see these images like this one coming out of China. This is another pyramid also in China, and here's some more pyramids in China. Here's an aerial shot of the Chinese pyramids. You can see they have a very specific arrangement, the way they're laid out, and it just happens to perfectly match the way that Giza and Teotihuacan are laid out, and it's also matching the orientation of the 3 stars in the Belt of Orion constellation. Now, this could be a coincidence, but I don't think so. The more you stack all these coincidences together, the less likely that they're all coincidences. Beyond a reasonable doubt has been achieved in my mind looking at all the evidence. It keeps getting more amazing. Look at how these 3 sites that I just showed you actually line up in that same orientation on the surface of the Earth. I doubt this is a coincidence. It's too perfectly set up for all this to be a coincidence. So here's the evidence showing you this alignments of these pyramids and the exact distances and the heights and the perimeters. There's all kinds of data on this stuff. And it doesn't stop there. The commonalities of structures between cultures is all over the planet. And you never really normally think, I don't think, of Cambodia and Guatemala being, you know, commonalities between them, but look at these structures and how similar they are, and it goes on and on. You can see in statues from around the world, like at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which I'm going to talk about in more in depth here, and sites in Indonesia and Easter Island, that all these statues have the same kind of features, the same hand positions with the fingers and all this stuff, and they're again very far apart from each other. We see the same commonalities in structures in Bulgaria, Machu Picchu, Hungary, and Peru. We see stonework that's incredibly detailed, giant megalithic stones that would be very hard to move and then fit together absolutely perfectly all over the world, from Bolivia and Peru to places in Europe and in Greece. This is the work of Richard Casero. He has a great book called Written in Stone that reviews a lot of these commonalities. We have the same kind of thing happening in symbolism. All these statues with that are holding feathers or serpents or staves in their hands, similar around the world. This is showing how Peru and Egypt have very similar geometric shapes in the foundations of their iconography, that there's a commonality between Egypt and Ecuador that is very specific. If you look at the sun disc on top of the head and the headdress, the position of the hand, all of these very specific things, like the snake coming down, looking out of the third eye there, can't be a coincidence that these cultures just both happen to choose to make these images exactly like this. Ecuador and Mesopotamia. This shows that there was probably some common culture that was influencing all these various places around the world. Balinese and Mayan designs also very similar. Balinese and Mayan pyramids, the gargoyle kind of like dragon-looking folks there, the triptych, which is those three doorways. So how is it we're getting these step pyramids that look the same with the triptych doorways that look the same? Does this mean that there was one culture that gave birth to all these cultures? It looks like that's possible, right? When you check out these images, you can get more and more mysterious the more you look into it. It's not just the pyramids and the triptych. It's also these gabled arches. It's the process of mummification. Mummification is not only in Egypt. It's found around the world.